pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I don't have mine on.
Look at it.
I'll check it again.
Okay, Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart. Here. Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation of exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate. Make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we're going to open up a public hearing for 67 Main Street OFA grant. Waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, well, I'm going to waive the reading of the minutes.
The notice.
Notices. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Victor,
Where do you want me?
right there.
Okay.
Now, the mic may not work, so I have a,
I will project.
now, there is a mic there, but you have to use that mic in particular. For some reason. you
All
have-
right, is this one working?
Can you hear it? It's working?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, first, I apologize for looking like my father at 85. I'm doing a lot of dental work, so if there's anything that I say that is unclear, please feel comfortable to ask. I'm here tonight to open a public hearing with regard to a community development block grant request that we're working up for the town with regard to Old Town Hall. The grant requires us to have a public hearing and to open the floor to discussions around the broad range of potential eligible projects that could come in for this funding. Being a community that does not have a median household income of less than 80% of the state's, community development block grant funds are only eligible for projects that implement ADA accessibility in publicly owned buildings. So that is why we've sort of narrowed the discussion to Old Town Hall, which of course is an anchor structure within the redeveloping village of Brewster, which is the core of my grant application. The request is for approximately $538,000. There is a 10% match portion required out of that. I believe I can raise that independently of your budget should we be required to. But the project currently entails the construction of a brick tower to the left of the structure in the parking lot, halfway back from the front of the building, that will mirror the construction of the building and will contain an elevator pod, which will reach up to the second tier. It will also include the construction of an ADA accessible bathroom unit in the building. And so I'd like to open the discussion for questions, comments.
Okay, well, okay, anyone on the board?
I just want to say I have been very involved with, as one of the stakeholders for the town with the coalition and, I mean, with the Arts Coalition, and this has really been vetted and vetted and vetted.
Yes.
So I think it would be fantastic to get it done. The new plans are really, they're nice looking, and it would be fantastic to get this open.
I think there's a good consensus from all the stakeholders that this is the right direction to go.
Yes, I think so too, finally. So thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public? Okay, before I close the public hearing, just quickly, Victor, you sent me an email today. We'll also require a voice vote resolution to approve the board's submission.
To report, yes, it goes in electronically over your signature on the 27th. And I need a page that has a voice vote that the board approves the submission of the request.
Our normal resolution at the end, each member of the board will vote. We'll
Yes.
give you a copy of that? Is that what
That's
you're-
fine, that's perfect.
Okay. I just thought you wanted
Do we
something.
need to see the present or the
what he's going to be submitting? Does
Well,
something-
Tony will be seeing it and we'll approve it. We can submit it to the full board if you'd like.
Yeah.
But right now, we're allowing it to be submitted,
Submitted.
because I think tomorrow's the deadline?
No, it's the 27th.
27?
Yeah, we have a few weeks left.
Okay.
Yeah, no, if you'd like to see it, if you could get
I
an
can give
electronic
you my
copy.
codes when it's available
Yeah.
and ask you, you can all make comments and we'll go from there. It's a pretty simple, straightforward request.
Okay, no, I'd like to see what we're
It's
agreeing
more
to.
engineering than anything else.
Cool. And this is something that's been put forward by the Cultural Arts Coalition.
Yes, additionally, you will have a resolution tonight with regard to a grant that they're putting forth for the building. Because they're not-for-profit located within the village, they are, we believe, we're still working on this, eligible for up to 75% funding for New York State Parks Historic Preservation Funds. The request that they're putting out is for continued envelope restoration for the building,
You know, the
which
windows
is
look great.
separate from the ADA issue.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
All right?
Anyone from the public? Seeing none, make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.
First item in work session tonight, discussion highway superintendent CHIPS disbursements. Mr. Bruin?
I don't know where to start.
You
You
submitted,
asked me to come here, you had some questions for me, so I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
okay, Liz, you want
I mean, I think initially, you have, the first page that I'm looking at is the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies, which includes the Gage Road and Indian Wells Road. So, when was that performed? Pardon?
Yeah,
these are the documents you submitted to the town.
right.
I'm sorry?
These are the documents that you submitted to the town. We just numbered them.
So we're on WS1,
Right,
which
so
Edwin
just,
just
if you
gave
just go to that
So
one.
you have it.
So I'm at a loss. Do you have
Okay, no,
questions? Do you have
I'm-
questions about these?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Okay, so just the one that's labeled WS1, Agreement for the Expenditure of Highway Monies, the Gage Road and the Indian Wells Road, that was already done and the money's expended?
I don't believe it's been paid for as of yet, but I was advised by you and I believe our town attorney at the time of request for this 284 agreement, that it was unnecessary because it was not being paid for by CHIPS funds.
Fine, that's what I wanted to know.
But I will bring to your attention now that I believe that that may have been an inaccurate statement. That my understanding is that, as I read the 284 law, it states that any money spent through taxation and a series of means of gaining those funds requires a 284 agreement. So that's why I brought this to your attention, and you said that it was unnecessary because it wasn't being paid for out of our CHIPS funding.
Correct. So well,
But
that's-
I believe we need to look into that and clarify. My thought is that this document is necessary whether it comes out of our tax base from the town or from CHIPS or from EWR or from any other state funding.
Okay, so let me just break down the question, because now I'm a little confused. So first, it's the Gage Road and Indian Wells Road.
Well, it
That-
wasn't Gage Road, it was Indian Well Road from Gage Road
Okay,
to
fine.
Terminus.
Commencing right, so, but that work has already been done.
I'm sorry?
That work has already been done.
That road has been done.
Got it,
And that was,
okay.
that road was done on your recommendation that I didn't need the town board approval to do that because it was coming out of our
Your general
highway,
fund.
highway general fund.
That's correct. That was at
Okay.
the last meeting.
So now, number two question would be now, what you're saying is either we may still have had to approve it even if it was out of the general fund? Or are you saying that you could still use CHIPS money if we approve it after the work is done? I'm confused. Maybe I'm confusing you. What are you saying about your reading of the highway
Where the
law?
confusion came in was that I was advised by you that I did not need a 284 agreement to do those roads.
Because you're taking it out of the general fund?
Right.
Yes,
Got it.
but I've read and I've discussed it with our town financial or town Ron Hund, and he seems to agree that all monies used, whether it comes from our general fund or from CHIPS or from EW, from state funding directly for that purpose, need to have a 284 agreement.
I'll speak to Ron Hunter.
Okay.
That's the way I read section 284.
And the,
This may not be the time to discuss that, and I'd be happy to work with you in to figure that out, but
and just to be clear, when you say general funds, or we say general funds, we're talking about the highway
general highway
funds.
fund,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Fine, that's fine,
I
that's fine.
should have clarified.
Okay.
Okay,
And it's not even the general highway fund so much as the highway repair fund,
fund, okay.
which would, I believe,
Okay.
be, I'm gonna
Right.
say DA, or
So,
I
we need to
do
s-
them on,
Okay, so we need to straighten out whether it's just for CHIPS money or for repairs out of the highway repair fund. We just need to, whether or not you need to fill that, the town board needs to be apprised of that, right?
that's
Okay.
correct. And-
Great.
And when we do that, there's, we could sign this 284 agreement going forward. And then there was the additional request for a 284 agreement that would be for the paving of the other roads that I had indicated that would likely be used. The majority of it would be used are leftover or rollover CHIPS funds from last year. And then the available CHIPS funds, the extreme weather recovery funds, and I think we had a small $18,000 or $20,000 state benefit for pothole repair that could be used for this type of work. So as they all add up, and then there would be additional funds that would come from the highway reserve fund to fund the remainder of the blacktopping that I've described. Should everything go well for the year and we can actually accomplish all the roads that are on the list.
How much was the rollover money from the previous year?
In the $200,000 range, something to that effect. I didn't, the figures aren't probably as important. We can do the math at that point in time, but it's in the $200,000
For the CHIPS
range.
money, is that what we're talking about, the CHIPS money?
The rollover CHIPS money
Right,
from
right.
2017 and the extreme winter recovery money from the same year.
I got a report today from the accountant Ron Hun, and he shows the rollover amount for going forward to this year was 182,071.27.
The CHIPS funding, and then I think there was 24,000 and change from extreme winter recovery, and so it's in around the $200,000 range.
Okay, and then if you have it right in front of you, the WS1A,
Yeah, the next page.
the next page, where it starts out with the general repairs, the sum of 942,410 shall be set aside, that's what I'm looking at. And then you have described in attachment marked road to be paved in 2018, which is the WS1B. Question would be, when you say possibilities, you know, is it just possibilities? And you would, see, I would feel, and this would be CHIPS money or general fund money? This is all CHIPS money that you're gonna be using?
For the roads listed,
Correct, or is it a hybrid?
a portion of it would be from the available CHIPS money from the rollover from last year, and then the available funds from this year. And the remainder of that would come out of, I would ask that you appropriate it from the highway reserve fund to finance the rest of it. See, the 942,410 is what I perceive or found approximately to be the amount of money in that highway fund for road repairs. And I believe in a technical sense that we need to have a 284 agreement for all general repairs, be it repair of sluices, repair of pipes, repair of any number of things. And I guess in a technical sense, some towns do the material and they don't do the labor, or some do material and labor, and it's at best an estimate, because most of the projects that we do are open-ended projects. If we start digging a failed pipe, you don't know it until you get to a certain point, whether you have to do 50 feet or 100 feet or 300 feet. So there's a lot of variables that come into a factor where you have to kind of play your jobs as they go. It's not a 100% bid type job where you can factor all the costs in. That's why the 284 agreements are so flexible. The state maintains that you can change them weekly, monthly, almost daily as applies to your needs. So I applied for paving half a dozen roads here, and at the end of doing the first 3 roads, it took more shim, which is a type of blacktop you use to take the imperfections out on the bottom. It's very tough to judge, so you could use 100 ton or 200 ton on a road and say, okay, now it's cost me $80,000 more to do the shimming on this prior to the 2-inch top cap. So you have to remain flexible. You may not be able to get through your whole list of roads for the years based on changes in costs for the particular job.
Okay, so you're asking the 942, so Will, so it's sort of like not only CHIPS, it's general fund, et cetera?
I'm curious, I just added up the numbers on WS1B. I'm sorry, I just added up the numbers on WS1B, and it seems to be in excess of 942,410.
I'm in excess of?
It appears to be in excess of the $942,000.
Yeah, by 100,000.
That would not reflect the almost $400,000 that we have in CHIPS funds as well. This is from the highway repair fund.
Okay, so
we currently have last year's rollover CHIPS funding, the current CHIPS funding for this year, the extreme winter recovery funds, and some others that total over $400,000. They would all.
I understand that. I'm just adding up the numbers on the June 21st, 2018 memorandum, roads to be paved 2018 possibilities. I added up that number, and it's in excess of the 942,410 that is on the contract.
I think that's what Mike is explaining. That's the 942 doesn't include, then, I'm making the number up, that the other 400,000 he has in rollover money and CHIPS money. So
But if
for
he's
argument's
looking
sake,
to
he has about a
expend the
total
money-
of 1.3.
Right.
If he's looking to expend the money, it's got to be in the contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm, initially when.
I'm just trying to explain where his
Okay, well,
where his figures have come from and how I think how Mike is trying to explain it. Just
What I was, and maybe I didn't explain it clearly, that the 941,000 roughly is highway general repair funds that are available for use this year.
Right.
In addition to that, we have almost, or a little over $200,000 in rollover CHIPS funds from last year. We have 186,000 plus in current CHIPS funding available from the state. I believe there's about $40,000 in other funding, extreme winter recovery funding, and the Pave New York fund. There were 2 or 3 different available sources from the state for state funding. So with the additional $400,000+, we would bring the 941 up to $1,341,000 or $1,335,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I didn't. What was your total that you came up with for that?
The total was
$1,042,000.
1,042,410, $1,042,410.
Yeah.
And so, let me just Okay, so initially when you were here, which was, I believe, 2 meetings ago, you were asking, this is my recollection, everyone, correct me if I'm wrong. You were asking for this contract, I'm gonna call it agreement, contract, to be signed, and I thought it was only for the expenditure of CHIPS money. That's when we said, no, you don't need the approval.
WS1.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the bottom line now is, what I'm hearing, and I'm just saying this is what I'm hearing, is that the new agreement, and I'm gonna call it the WS1A 942-410-1, is not only for CHIPS money, it's more money, and it's not only CHIPS money, it's general fund money, and it might also include, your request might include other monies, because it's in excess of the 942-410. So it seems like we're not really only signing an agreement for the expenditure of CHIPS money, we're signing an agreement for the expenditure of your general fund money and also the additional money, what did you call it, the money from, for the recovery. So,
That would be accurate, and I actually got an opportunity to speak to Ron Hunt today about that, and his opinion seemed to be that the best way to grant me the right to spend the monies that have already been appropriated in my budget was through the generalization of we hereby approve you to use these funds as they were designated, and not to exceed that fund. We have to be careful not to exceed the available amount. And that's why I said that the roads that are to be paved, I put the possibilities down, would change somewhat as we got down the road of paving and understood exactly what was used on each particular road. We add it up as we go along, much the same as we do with the use of all of our general lines throughout the year. If we have getting low on a line for vehicle repair, then we take alternative routes to be able to keep within our budget.
okay, so I think really where my mystification comes about is now I really don't understand Section 284. So if Section 284 stands for the proposition that you would have the town board agree to the expenditure of monies other than CHIPS monies, and it would be general fund, and I'm not suggesting that you're incorrect, I'm just saying, if indeed that is what that agreement means, the 284 agreement, then I think what I would feel more comfortable with would be more definiteness regarding the figures that you would place in here, as well as more definiteness as to the roads to be paved. And I understand completely what you're saying is, let's just call it Nichols Road, where you have the 121-270. Well, there's a possibility that, we might find something in the course of constructing it that causes us to spend a little bit more money. So we can't be that definite, I got it. But what I'm thinking is at least, and once again, through my ignorance of Highway 284, that we should have more definiteness regarding at least the roads to be paved. So where you have possibilities, then I would have.
I've listed those possibilities on this sheet.
Right, but I'd like a little more definiteness as to the roads.
Would it make sense, because we know, I think we know that the CHIPS money has to be accounted for, or what roads you're doing. And you might be completely right on, and Ron might be, on the 284. But could we start to get moving on this?
Right.
To actually, which you choose, what roads will be done with the CHIPS money to start out? We can approve those, and then we can work on getting the rest of, getting everything up to speed as far as legalities and what we need to authorization.
Or at least being consistent with what I thought we did 2 meetings ago, which said this was going to only be for the CHIPS money. So if the CHIPS money that we have is a total of, let's say the 2018 CHIPS, I was told, is $342,820. And then we would use a rollover of the 17, and it's just CHIPS, I'm not including any highway, whatever. So if it's 342,820 plus what Tony just said, because that was exclusively rollover from CHIPS, correct, Tony?
Yes.
Then we add those two together and then say, okay, well, that would cover perhaps the Nichols Road and the Dingle Ridge Road. I'm just making that up for the CHIPS money. I'd feel, comfortable doing that. The only question then would be, what would be the general repair figure the sum of $942,410. As I recall, the last time it was okay to have the WS1, which said $1,850,000. You said, well, that could be just more than the CHIPS money. That's what I recall the last time.
My understanding of the way this works, the state wants to be notified of how the CHIPS money is spent every year.
Right.
Okay? So the bottom line is, right now, we have approximately $340,000 to $350,000. So you need to identify to the state by the end of the year, or first quarter of next year, how you spent the CHIPS money, what roads, and give them a report. You provide us with some reports earlier on. I think you went back 14, 15, and 16, and possibly 17. You identified the roads. What they need now, or what we need now, is the same identification. Which of these roads are going to be used for CHIPS money? Identify the amount, and then the other roads you intend to use from your general fund. That's basically what they need.
Because right now, we agree that, we have an issue here with what do we really have to have as an agreement. But at a minimum, I think we all agree that we need an agreement for the CHIPS money. I think that's, and in the meantime, Willis can interact and speak to Ron Hunt.
And also.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't want to lose a lot of the good weather while
And that's the other
we
piece.
figure this out. If we know
Right.
you can go ahead with what roads you choose. No one wants to micromanage. We want you to tell us on the CHIP, which roads are going to be done with the CHIPS money. And I understand that things can change. So I think that's what we're looking to do, is to get the CHIPS
I would be
money.
happy to do the math and tell you the specific roads that we are gonna do with the CHIPS money.
Okay,
But
great.
that does not alter the fact that we paved, or we did a paving process on Indian Well and, whatever the associated road was up there,
Morning Dove.
Morning Dove, thank
And
you.
that the board said at the
And
time, no.
that job is done and needs to be paid for. And
Okay, that would come out of your normal fund, not out of CHIPS fund. That's what we
That,
decided.
that's acceptable.
Right.
Okay,
But what we need is we need to sign this 284 agreement before it can be paid. Because the state law says the CFO cannot dispense funds without a 284 agreement.
we've been doing it for
What'd you do for the last
quite a
4
few
years?
years without it.
But we'll
Well,
you'll
I gotta tell ya.
look into this and figure it
Who's
out.
the CFO?
Well, I'm looking at section 284 right now, so it appears that if you look at it,
Are we
there's a-
just not overcomplicating this just
Yeah.
a little bit?
No, no,
And
well-
regardless of whether he needs the 284, doesn't need the 284, just like Mike stated before, if he's got 1.4 million, and I'm making that number up, I know it's a little less, does it really matter? As long as we say, yes, we know that 300,000 of that is going to come out of CHIPS money, can't we allot him just, okay, you can spend up to and not to exceed the 1.342 million, and it doesn't really matter whether he spends it on Gage Road or the other road?
Well, theoretically, when the money is budgeted and appropriated to a certain fund, in this case, the Highway
General Repair Fund.
General Repair Fund, my understanding has always been that that is the money that is spent for highway repairs at the discretion of the highway superintendent. The monies that come from CHIPS in years past, and I've been sitting up here for several years.
And I'd like to say that the money that has been selected for CHIPS funding in the past, the process is that I notify, and I agree now, reading and getting more knowledgeable about this 284 agreement, that we should have had the 284 agreement prior to doing the work. But in the past 4 years, for all the CHIPS funding that I did utilize, I watched my CHIPS funding. We used CHIPS funding for Star Ridge, for example. And the process is that I give the bills to Ron Hund. Ron Hund pays the bills. We need a canceled check from the town to provide to NISDOT for to refund the town the payments from the CHIPS funds. They have always done that. They've always went through Glass Smooth. The ripple in it was that within the town board and myself, we did not have this one paper, the 284 agreement in place for that. CHIPS, New York State, returned our money, they sent us a check, they got paid in full every year after I made, and it's a substantial amount of paperwork to make the claim for that CHIPS funding or for the extreme weather or any of them. So I do the paperwork properly, I send it into New York State Department of Transportation, and we got reimbursed for that. That's just a thing of the past. All that money was accounted for, it was properly used, it was accepted by the state as being proper processed. And CHIPS money isn't limited to paving. We can buy equipment with it. One of the stipulations is that it has to have an intended lifespan of over 10 years. So you can't buy a pickup truck that typically has a 5-year lifespan. You could buy a plow truck that has a 15 or 20-year. So you can use it on equipment, you can use it on many different things. It's not just for paving, but the problem came that I came here as a highway superintendent from private industry, and we didn't have 284 agreements. And it was never brought to my attention by anyone in the town that we needed and when it was, I know that I spoke to you about it a couple of times, Will, and we had discussions about it, and we were looking into it. So now is the time to rectify it. What's done in the past is done in the past, but going forward, I am confident that the money in this highway repair fund needs to be approved by the town board through a 284 agreement for use. And we can discuss that at a later date.
Well, that's fine, Mike, because all I'm saying is that in the years past, the only documentation that we've had in this town was from the highway superintendent was regard to CHIPS money and how it would be spent.
Okay, no,
and
I'm
the
not
town board
disputing
would
that.
adopt resolutions authorizing it.
I agree.
I can tell you without doubt that the town board would love to take a role in approving the independent expenditures of the funds that have already been appropriated to the Highway Reserve Fund, but that has not been.
No one would be happier than me, Will, if you were correct, and the less paperwork, the better. And the assumption was for me, when the town appropriated funds for specific things in my department, that I had the right to use them. And that was the premise that I had, which is much the same as you're saying.
But
I
now
agreed with
you're
you.
telling me that Ron Hunt has said to you that he can't pay those bills unless this agreement's in place. But we've been paying the bills all along. So something
I'm
is
not
not.
disputing that.
Okay,
I'm not
you know what I
disputing
think?
that.
I think really, at this juncture, I think let's look into it. I right now, just looking at a couple of things, feel comfortable with the thought that we can take this agreement and use it for all expenditures of money, and so therefore my only concern, subject to what Will is gonna look into and discuss, is that the sum on the top, where it says general repairs, the 942,410, that it be a firm number, and also that the WS1B, which is the roads to be paved 2018 possibilities, be really stated. So in other words, not possibilities, but you're anticipating Federal Hill, Putnam Avenue, Nichols, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I would like to see, because in just very quickly reviewing some of what you've been talking about, I don't have any problem at all of including all of what you're saying. So we have that agreement, as long as there's more specificity with the roads that you want and what the sums of money are for the sum of shall be set aside to be expended for primary work and general repairs. So I'd like to have a better figure there, because the figure that you're saying is 100,000 short of what you're proposing, and you're saying, oh, you know why? Because I'm going to add other monies in. Well, I'd like to see what those sums are on that line. And then I think I think I'd be fine. And I agree with Lynn, it's something that we just have to really hustle, because, you know, taking into account the fact that we had such nice weather today, I wouldn't want this whole process to be so attenuated that we would end up not being able to have you and your wonderful guys at the highway department do your work on these roads.
It's time, and it may have got delayed a little bit, but I didn't know that it would be this extensive, and yes, it is blacktopping season, so.
Right.
If someone
least the
could, at
chips
least, if
money.
we could come up with a means of expediting the thing, I'll provide you any of the figures that you want, the names of the roads, whichever.
Yeah, but it's right there.
Yes, I
mean,
think what we need is so we can get going, identify where the CHIPS money, which roads exactly the
I'd be
CHIPS
happy to
money is
do that,
going to.
sure.
That'll be, then we're on our way. Will can research everything, although and then at least we've got a good start on things.
Correct.
I think also on WS1B on this list, I think it would be helpful on Brewster Hill Road, Sodom to Tenetta Lake Road, if you, because you were very helpful putting the mileage down in other places. So if we could get the mileage on that, on Sodom to Tenetta Lake Road. Do you see where that is?
I'm sorry?
Can you see where that is on there?
I see what processes, paving, chipping, grinding,
No, under, up in the corner, WS1B.
WS1B.
Okay, down under Dingle Ridge, it goes Federal Hill, Putnam Avenue, Nichols, Meridian, Dingle Ridge, and then Brewster Hill Road. It says Sodom to Tenetta Lake Road. And on all the other roads, which was very helpful, you've given the mileage. If you could give us the mileage, if that's one you're gonna go ahead with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was an oversight.
Okay,
'cause I
no, and
did-
it's
I
not a
did
big
it on the
deal.
other
It's
ones,
just, it's great, just for the consistency. And I think it was also mentioned from the Cobb Road to Ames Road, which is 850 feet, which is great and precise. But I think some people feel in the Star Ridge, to put that into mileage, I think it comes out to 0.16 miles, and then to Star Ridge, the 2,050 feet comes out to 0.38, but I never trust my math. So if you could just translate those into mileage, so we're just consistent the whole way through, I think that would be a big help, and then pick the roads, and I think we're really ready to go on the CHIPS money. I
Now,
don't know.
I also heard before something about the highway crew. Now, is the highway department doing this, or is a private contractor doing this work?
Some of the smaller roads, Federal Hill, the highway department would be doing. Putnam Avenue, the likelihood is that we would do that. We may do the shimming. The shimming is a process that slows the contractors down. So we may do the shimming portion of it, which is essentially go in a few days in advance and fix all the shape of the road. And then the contractor can come in and just put down the desired amount of, they have more trucks, they have larger paver, they have bigger rollers, so they're a little better equipped to do the top coat. The price is not that much more than the purchase of the blacktop itself. I think at one point we were paying around $8 to $9 a ton to have it put in place and rolled. Truck,
And what's the cost if the town did it?
I'm sorry?
What would it cost if the town were to do it? Get that number?
It would be $8 or $9 a ton less, minus, in addition to the men's hourly wages and fuel and wear and tear on trucks. So it's a give and take.
When you prepare for your annual process of repairing roads, and you use outside contractors, you do it through a bid process, don't you?
I'm sorry, do I do?
You do it through a bid process, don't you?
What we would do is a bid process. At this point, I would put each job out to bid. I would get 3 bids on each road, send them to, posted in the newspaper, and some people are capable of doing it. Some people are already booked, so they may not bid. The other thing we can do is, I've had great success with either working off a state bid, OGS, or surrounding area bids. We can, what they call piggyback off of different county bids, different town bids, where you can use their pre-approved bidding process to get a better rate, and it's an approved means of procurement through the state, New York State OGS.
That's piggybacking on a state contract, which is,
Yes.
that's in the general municipal law. I'm just
On a
saying
state
that if
contract.
you're not doing that, you do have to bid these
If I
projects.
did not piggyback off a state or local town or a county process,
Contract.
then we would have to go out to bid, correct?
Okay.
How about the past 3 or 4 years? How did we do it then? Did it go out to bid, you piggyback, what did you
They
do?
went out to bid.
Did Ron see any of those bid documents?
I'm sorry?
Does Ron see those bid documents?
Does Ron,
Ron, see those
The-
bid
the
documents?
Does Ron see the bids that went out and came back?
Like on Star
I
Ridge
would have to
be.
think that he did.
Well, if
I
someone,
think the only one, there were only one project that comes to mind that would have gone out to bid was Star Ridge Road. All of the other ones, all the paving work that Gorman does, for example, they are included in the OGS system, so there's no need to bid their work. They're already at the state minimum prices. So they're just previously approved.
Thanks a lot. The last 4 years working with Ron Hund on the CHIPS thing, I don't think we had an understanding of what you had to do and how you had to provide that accounting to the state. And that's good that it was taken care of that way. I think what we really want is, I think we're also mandated by the state to watch the monies that are spent by the town and to come to an agreement, which I think the 284 agreement is, with the highway superintendent to identify the roads that are going to be done that year, and hopefully have that kind of agreement done in the first part of the year so that you can already be going forward and getting things
It
in
would be
place.
very beneficial.
Yeah, and so, and I don't think it should be as close and as accurate as could be, but you could always come back at a later date to say, we've run over on this, we'd like another appropriation, could the town board consider it? Because we are empowered to approve money spent by the town, and although you have discretion over the highway fund, I think we have to work together to come to a resolution, and so I think that's kind of what we're trying to get at tonight.
I totally
with this.
agree.
I do.
We need to work as a team.
Yeah, so I think as soon as you can get accurate numbers for us to look at a 284 agreement, as specific as possible, then we can come to a resolution, and that's my feeling. And we can agree as a board to go forward. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
anything else? Okay, where are we going? What's happening?
I think what Mike should do is, A, get definite roads, give us a better projection on the absolute roads you want to do, and modify the figure to include the actual monies, which means your general fund monies, your CHIPS money, your hard times highways money, and any other monies that you may be using, so we have figures that sort of match together. And I think we put that in this Highway 284 agreement, once Willis checks it out and says that that's what it should be, that it's commingled money, not just CHIPS money, and then we can approve that, well, obviously discuss it at the next meeting and then approve it.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
All right, sounds good.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Number 2, discussion on the vehicles policy. There are some changes on number 6. We've added he or she shall be assigned a single 24-hour take-home vehicle at any time. Been removed as has been assigned, however, in which. And on number 14, Teamster members of the Highway Department and operated by a Teamster member. Nothing basically changed there, except we identified it as a Teamster. So anyone other than a Teamster would report the going out of town with a vehicle outside the town boundary to the supervisor at each taking.
I have a addition to number 6 that I'd like to propose.
Go ahead.
I do think the highway superintendent, certainly on his way home, whatever, if he's out and needs to grab, it's always milk, isn't it? But I certainly think it's appropriate to use the truck on the way home to pick up, incidental personal use within the town. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know how.
Within the
everyone-
town?
Within the town.
Okay. And
I
where do you
don't-
want to add that?
I would add, I'm not sure where, but would say basically incidental personal use within the town. Let's see, vehicle at any time. Because it says used for town businesses only. I don't know, do we add, Will, how would you do this? Or incidental personal use within the town?
How about and/or incidental use
Yeah.
within town?
Yeah, but I want to make sure the board's okay with it, but
That's fine with me.
You fine with it?
I don't.
Well, and/or?
Yeah, and/or incident, well, the word, I think, the key word is incidental. It's not,
Yes, incidental.
shouldn't be a vehicle used for personal use.
Right.
It should, but, incidentally, you're using it, to stop at the grocery store or whatever.
Right.
Shouldn't be a problem.
It's never been a problem in the town, I don't think, so.
Michelle, you got that? We'll change it.
Is there public discussion about this?
Yeah, please.
I'm not sure exactly what's written up there. I did read it earlier off of the website, and I can only tell you that I'm not sure whether you're talking about this single vehicle that's been assigned to the highway superintendent. I can tell you that there are no vehicles assigned to the highway superintendent. That the highway superintendent has the right to drive whatever vehicle is appropriate for the needs of the day or the hour or the minute. The use of the vehicle, and there's case law on this, that prohibits the town board from limiting to a degree the use of my vehicle, that I have the right to use that vehicle, and as you, I think, wrote, that it's a 24-hour take-home vehicle, whether it's a take-home vehicle or whether it's a vehicle that sits in the yard for use at later in the night. Many challenges come for me, and yes, I am on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and that's the reason why the state has given me the right, and other people the right, to use that vehicle 24 hours a day for incidental reasons. And the incidental reasons just plain aren't listed. There's little doubt, nor have I ever used it for anything other than that. I don't use it for business purposes. I don't use it for out-of-town travel if it's not related to the town work. If I have to go to Albany tomorrow to get parts, I don't need the town board's approval to drive to Albany and get parts.
Will,
It's
is that
left
true?
to my discretion as the highway superintendent to do that. And if I don't have it in my back pocket, but I'd be happy to provide you with the case law that gives me the right to do that.
You have the right to take the vehicle anywhere you so choose, at any time.
I'm sorry?
You have the right by law to take the vehicle and go anywhere you want. And this town board has no authority to say anything about the use of the vehicle.
No, I don't have the right to take it on vacation with my family. I didn't say I have the right to take it anywhere I want, anytime.
Well, tell us what you.
Within general rules, or general use for the town, which
I
is
think
what
it says that, Mike, though. It says, with regard to the town highway superintendent, she shall be assigned a single 24-hour take-home vehicle at any time, which shall be used for town business purposes only. It doesn't limit you, as well, I'm reading it, doesn't limit you to the town, it limits you to town business. So if you're going to Albany to pick up parts, then that's town business. So I don't think there's any
It also
restriction.
says a single
no.
town vehicle
Well, that's
that's
for
been
the-
assigned.
that's-
I'm not assigned a vehicle. I drive the vehicles that I find appropriate for the
Correct.
use and for,
But it said you're assigned a single 24-hour take-home vehicle.
So instead of the word
Take-home.
single, how do we do it? Because right now, there's two vehicles missing, well, not missing, out of the highway department that We don't know where they are.
I'm sorry?
There's a black Suburban and a green truck. Can you tell us where the green truck is?
Sure I do.
Where?
It's in my front yard.
The green
I
truck.
drove it home today.
And where's the black one?
It's sitting right next to it.
That's what we mean by a single vehicle. You have two vehicles, you're entitled to one. That's what this says. So if we have to reword
But what
it,
I'm telling you is you don't have the right to limit that to a single vehicle.
I believe
That
we
ma-
do. So
I
you
don't
could
believe
take
you do.
all 24 town or 50 town vehicles home with you if you wanted to.
I don't think we have to get that foolish, no, but
We could-
there are different reasons for driving different vehicles.
And when you get to work, you can make that change. Well, I don't understand how two vehicles,
I think we should probably have discussed that, but we didn't. I
No,
have the
and
right
this
to
has
use-
never
I
happened
have the
before that
right-
there's
you-
two.
You have the right to refuse appropriations for me to purchase vehicles or appropriate monies for me to purchase vehicles. The town board doesn't have the right to tell me to drive the green truck when it snows
we
or
didn't,
the
no,
red truck
we're not doing
when
that. We did
it's
not
sunny.
say that. That's not what this says. You're
That-
entitled
that-
to a vehicle.
You're trying to limit my powers of using the equipment that was designated or purchased for the town board, by the town board for my highway department.
Not to
No,
put-
we're
not to
limiting
put-
what you take home.
Not to
I
put
think.
words in Mike's mouth, I think the way he explained it and the way I understood it when he explained it was, let's just say in this instant, if you have two vehicles parked in your driveway, is that depending on the type, let's just pretend it's winter, you may go home in the pickup truck because it wasn't snowing, then all of a sudden at 3 a.m, there's a foot of snow out there, and then it's more appropriate to use the Suburban all-wheel drive, and I'm making that up. And that, to me, is the way he's explaining why he might have two vehicles in his house. He might, depending on the time and the need, he may say, I need to use the Suburban now versus I may need to use the pickup truck. That's the way I understood his explanation.
That's exactly accurate, and it would be that if the pickup truck has a snowplow, the other Suburban does not. But whether if it's parked at the highway yard or whether it's parked in my driveway, I only drive one vehicle at a time. I'm not abusing the use of those vehicles. And both of those vehicles, I might add, were bought used with between 80 and 100,000 miles on them for between $6,000 and $8,000 each. They weren't bought for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for me to just use at my discretion and leave a $60,000 vehicle parked in my driveway. I'm extremely frugal and extremely conservative with the use of that vehicle.
But
And there was one instance that allowed that, where I was actually at the highway department and needed to bring the other vehicle home because it wouldn't start. So I took the other vehicle home and just happened to get stuck at home with two vehicles. Now, it's not the end of the world. There's, whether it's at my house or whether it's there, it sits there and it's parked and it's as safe as can be.
Well,
And it's micromanaging, and it's a very, very moot point, except for the fact that my feeling is you don't have the right to tell me what to drive and when to drive. And that word that you added in there, single vehicle,
Well, I think
is
we
wrong.
might be going over the top here,
So
because
let's
if
get-
you're assigned, so
I'm not
there's,
assigned a vehicle.
if there's one vehicle that you're assigned that nobody else in the highway department, Teamsters or otherwise, can use, that you would take home, I'm looking at it a different way. There's one that you'll always be assigned, period. No one else has the right to use it, okay? Right now, what you're saying is that it's fairly amorphous, or it's, that you can use any vehicle there, right? And
Okay.
because you're the highway superintendent, and I agree.
Yep.
But that means that other highway people who are allowed to drive vehicles can use sometimes any other vehicle, right? So-and-so can use any of these other vehicles. What I'm saying to you is, this says there's one single one that only you use. The anticipation being, of course, is that that would be the vehicle absent snowstorms and whatever. This is the vehicle, you wake up in the morning, you hop around, you check in the drainage, whatever. If it turns out that, it happens to be winter, I don't think we're saying that you can't hop into the pickup truck with the plow and bring that home instead. So I don't think this is an exclusive, you know, that you can't drive anything else. It's more, there's one vehicle that only you can drive, and if you change your mind simply because of weather conditions or whatever, well, then fine, then you can take another vehicle. That's what I thought we were talking about.
And that's not entirely accurate either, because I let other employees in town, in the highway department, drive my Suburban if they need to, or if they need to drive the pickup to go deliver fuel. They use those vehicles.
Correct, but you let them
The only
do it.
difference being, they're sort of personalized in that I have my raincoat and my road flares and an emergency saw and GPS and certain personal flashlights and my tools and my hard hats. They're in those vehicles. And it doesn't impede anyone else from using them, but they're not a general fleet truck. It's not something that I would just say, okay, guys, 3 guys hop in that truck and take all of my personal gear out on the road. And I had an instance today where someone was asked to take a dead possum off of Brewster Hill Road. They didn't find it yesterday. The woman called back. I went back up with my pickup truck today to get the possum out of her driveway that was melted down to goo, and I had no shovel in my truck. So I explained to the woman that was here yesterday, somebody went by the truck and they needed a shovel. So we're gonna have a discussion tomorrow about, please don't take the shovel out of the highway superintendent's truck because it's a necessary tool. So it's the same thing, like, I do customize my own vehicle to an extent but I don't use it I don't restrict its use when it's required by someone else.
Of course not,
But I would just say that what I'm not uncomfortable with you taking the bulldozer home if that's what you feel. That's not micromanaging. You need to take home what you need to take home. What makes me uncomfortable is managing things, and granted, we didn't spend a fortune, but it's taxpayer money, is having 2 vehicles at your home. I don't care how you switch them around. I don't care what you have in them as long as it's legal. I don't care about any of that, but I think having 2 vehicles at home, when you might need one of those at work for someone to hop in and when you're on and say, take the Suburban and come out, or I'm just uncomfortable with you having 2 vehicles at home, any 2, more than one. And as I said, I don't care what it is, that is your call, but I'm uncomfortable with 2. I don't know what the rest of the board feels on that, but that would be my only point.
And thank you for sharing your concerns. I just don't know, because of the safety of it, I understand the use of the vehicles at my department extremely well, and I would never jeopardize the use of that vehicle. And if it was at any point 24 hours a day, if we needed that vehicle, we could get that vehicle very expeditiously. We leave our mowing tractor at the county highway yard. Years past, they used to every night drive every vehicle back to the highway yard. And the wear and tear on vehicles, if you're mowing in the Milltown area, to drive the mowing tractor back at night, leave a half hour early to drive the mowing tractor back, tear the tires off it, the next morning drive back to where you just were the night before. I stopped that practice. It was bad practice. It was extreme wear and tear on the vehicles. It was excess usage. It was a half an hour a day less travel time while the man could be out there mowing grass, and we would leave it in a safe place. We have places throughout our town where we leave our trucks and tractors so that everything doesn't get returned to the highway department every night. And if there was some concerns about that second vehicle at my house, we should have discussed this without trying to pass a resolution to say that you're trying to restrict the use of my equipment. And I see it as that, as restricting my use of the available machinery that I have.
I personally don't agree. You're entitled to a vehicle, whether it's a single vehicle, whatever. You have 2 vehicles. You are entitled to a vehicle. You've got 2.
By whose decision?
Pardon?
By whose decision? Because remember what I said, the key word in there is assigned. I am not assigned any
Okay,
vehicle.
we'll take out the word assigned. Tell us how the word is, so you only take home 1 vehicle at any one time. Give us the wording.
By whose decision?
I believe it's town board.
I don't believe they've acted on that
But
yet.
we want to act on it, we're trying to get you to understand what wording do we have to use so you understand you're entitled to take home a vehicle, whether it's a
Of your
single,
choice.
multiple, but one at a
And you
time.
may, I'm here to tell you that I think that that's wrong and it's unjust. And if you act on it, you act on it. And
Well, we plan to act on it, so how do you want us to word it so you understand it? So we're gonna take out the word assign. He or
take it
she-
out in its entirety. The town highway superintendent is the one responsible for the vehicles at his disposal.
You are. But one at a time to take home. Tell us how to word it.
I'm not sure you can make that decision, but if you
I
want,
believe
you
we
want
can.
to take that step, you take that
Okay,
step and
well-
we'll go.
That's fine. I mean, certainly the
I mean,
town board can take the step. If you say you have legal case law that says that you can have as many vehicles at your house as you want,
I didn't say with regard to 2 vehicles at my house. What I said, the case law was the use of the vehicle. The use of the vehicle that I have for incidental use is a built-in inherent legal right.
that's
Right.
quite all
And we
right.
can get to
I'd
you.
love to
So-
see the case law, Mike, if you provide that to me.
Well,
I'll
could
certainly
we-
read it.
I
Could we-
never made any reference to that as having 2 vehicles. We weren't discussing 2
Okay,
vehicles
can-
at the time.
could
were
we
talking about
change this
the
then?
ability, and as Lynn brought up, that she felt that I should have the ability to use it for incidental reasons.
You can.
Yes,
I thank you very much.
I wanted to add that in because I don't
But
think we need to be.
Prior to this, I did not have that.
Right, but we don't, and that might have been an oversight, because there's no reason for anyone to be draconian. It's just, and we want to be very clear, like, if we said with regard to the town highway superintendent, he, she shall have a single 24-hour take-home vehicle, that way, that gives you because we want, having a choice is certainly, I don't
Does
think
that mean
anyone.
that I can only use one vehicle in a
No.
24-hour period, or can I, if it snows, can I use
Well, that's why we're
another
asking
vehicle?
You
you
come
for
in,
your
you get-
input, because, of course.
It doesn't say I can only take one vehicle home. That's not what the.
It doesn't say, it does say.
It doesn't say
single
that.
24-hour take-home vehicle.
At
One.
any time.
Any
A
one you
single.
got. You got 50 trucks down there, use any one of the 50, one at a time.
Yeah.
So how about, he, she shall have
Have
a
a-
single 24-hour take-home vehicle at
any
any
time.
one time. Any one time. How's that?
But that means you can, if you went home for lunch and you decided when you went back, you wanted to switch out to another truck, you would be able to do that. No one cares how many times a day you switch. I think what I care about, and I won't speak for the rest of the board, is that it limits you to one vehicle when you go home in the evening, that there's only one vehicle parked at your house. I don't need to micromanage what vehicle that is, and I don't think the
No.
town board wants to.
Nope, we don't.
So that's, and the rest of, I mean, maybe there isn't a majority of the board that feels that way. I don't know.
Okay, so here's the way it's proposed to read now. He, she shall have a single 24-hour take-home vehicle at any one time, which shall be used for town business purpose only and/or incidental use,
Personally.
Personal use, incidental personal use
Right.
within the town.
incidental, personal. Michelle, you getting this too? Personal use.
Just going to suggest, it sounds like this might be inappropriate to rearrange this and vote on this thing tonight. It might be something you'd want to give some time to, because it is a lot to think about here.
We've already thought about it. It's here. We're discussing
And
it. And we can put it up to vote
Any
tonight.
questions for me? Because I'm just,
We're
5 o'clock comes early. I've told you that I think that you're wrong in doing what you're doing, and if you're willing to vote, if you're going to vote on it, vote on it.
Well,
We'll take.
we'll vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay, so let's get this straight. So what are we doing right now? Are we tabling this for the
No.
next meeting?
No,
No.
it's discussion. I put it on to pass
Fine,
it tonight.
gotcha.
We will put it off until the next meeting to
Correct.
pass it.
Right, which we always do, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Well, we could have done it tonight,
Right,
but we'll put it off until the next meeting.
That's all.
Okay?
right. So suggestions that need to be made can be made
Yeah.
as well.
Until it's actually in a resolution form, which it is now. Next time it'll be on the agenda as So anyone has comment to make, put it in writing between now and then, and we'll go accordingly. Okay, let's move to the next item. Miscellaneous gas and diesel fuel distribution tracking.
Okay, so as everyone knows, the price of gas has been going up. It's astronomical now. God knows whether or not it'll go down. I always find that when gas goes up, it may come down, but certainly not at any amount that is similar to that which it was before. So, of course, as the town board, we're trying to do our best in order to make certain that gas, diesel, whatever it is that we're using in the town is used as in a parsimonious way so that you don't spend a lot of money on it. Therefore, there is a resolution that's being put forth this evening called Miscellaneous Diesel Fuel and Miscellaneous Gas Distribution Tracking. Whereas it is the sense of this town board that tight inventory controls are essential to ensuring the proper use and application of materials and commodities purchased with taxpayer funds and utilized in the furtherance of the public welfare, and whereas the town highway department fuel dispensaries are equipped with a keyed system that logs or accounts for the amount of fuel dispensed by whom and to what vehicle, and whereas in a recent accounting department review of highway department fuel distribution for the period commencing January 1, 2018 and ending May 31, 2018, it was identified that 463 plus minus gallons of diesel fuel was distributed and identified in the log as diesel and distributed via a miscellaneous key that does not specifically identify to where this diesel fuel was dispensed. And whereas the town board has been made aware that this diesel fuel was pumped into an auxiliary fuel tank that is attached to or located in the back of a 2006 Chevrolet Silverado town-owned vehicle, and whereas in order to get a better understanding of where this fuel was ultimately being distributed or dispensed, the town board sent a letter to the highway superintendent requesting detail and accounting for the usage, and whereas the response from the highway superintendent was nebulous, and whereas given the foregoing, it is the desire of the town board to improve the accounting and inventory controls relating to fuel usage by the highway department, now therefore be it resolved that henceforth all gasoline and diesel dispensed from the town of Southeast Highway Department fuel pumps, which is pumped into a container, auxiliary fuel tank, or anything other than a town vehicle having its own key, must abide by the following accounting procedures. 1. Any miscellaneous gas and miscellaneous diesel dispersed from the town highway garage fuel tank with the miscellaneous keys shall require a detailed fuel distribution log sheet be kept at the time of disbursement. The logs shall include at a minimum the day, date, number of gallons, amount dispensed, and a description of the vehicle, container, auxiliary tank to which fuel has been dispensed. The log shall include the purpose, i.e. if it's a 5-gallon container, to fill weed whacker, chainsaw, etc. If the disbursement is pumped into an auxiliary tank, a log must be kept in the vehicle, and when fuel is dispensed from the auxiliary tank, the log must include the person pumping the fuel, day, date, time, number of gallons, amount, and description of equipment vehicle to which the fuel was dispensed. Number 2, the highway department shall be required to provide the log sheets identified in number 1 above to the town of Southeast Accounting Department every Monday, identifying all fuel dispersed during the previous week, Monday through Sunday. The highway department shall also provide the Southeast Accounting Department with fuel master transaction listing for both miscellaneous diesel and miscellaneous gas for the same period. See attachment. Any gas or diesel pumped with a personal identification, social security number, similarly identified in number 1 above, will require the same reporting requirements. However, if no miscellaneous key fuel or personal key fuel is dispensed during that week as identified in number 1 above, no such report shall be necessary for that week. And be it further resolved that the head mechanic at the highway department shall install a fuel pump meter on the auxiliary fuel tank currently located on or attached to the back of the 2006 Chevrolet Silverado truck by no later than 12 o'clock noon on Monday, July 23, 2018. Be it further resolved that the town board will request that the Putnam County Department of Consumer Affairs Weights and Measures calibrate the fuel pump meters at the town highway department and the auxiliary fuel tank to ensure accuracy, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Just want to note for the record that one of the whereas paragraphs was replaced with the whereas the response from the highway superintendent was nebulous. And additionally, the initial date for the installation by the head mechanic was July 16th. That was changed to July 23rd.
Discussion.
I obviously made the motion.
I'll second the discussion. We're in the discussion section of the town.
Period. Okay, good.
Mr.
We can
Rowan?
go on to the regular meeting.
The things that I'd like to bring to your attention are, number one, there's been a miscellaneous fuel key down there as long as my mechanics who've been there for almost 20 years can remember. And that I'd like to say that the appropriation of and use of all this fuel, it has been warranted and it's all been properly used, and that I can tell you that I am extremely proud of every employee that I have down there, and would trust each and every one of them with my own home, and that I am so confident that every ounce of this fuel has been properly used, that this is an extreme amount of reaction for a very small, even if you wanted to consider it a problem, it has never been a problem. And to go to the extreme of installing a meter and having it somehow calibrated, I'm not so sure that the Putnam County Department of Consumer Affairs even has the ability to calibrate the type of equipment that's going to be installed on that tank. That's to be determined by them, I'm sure. But when you typically buy a pump with a meter, they're relatively inexpensive and they're relatively accurate. And if they were within an ounce or two, I don't think it would make a whole lot of difference. And it doesn't say anything here about keeping them calibrated. Do we have to calibrate it monthly or annually or semi-annually? It's a lot of thoughts in here, but even the reporting, I'm going to tell you that it's going to be time-consuming. It's do what we can to the best of our ability, but when you get some employees that I have who dispense the majority of the fuel, they may not be fully capable of filling out reports. So we'll work with that to the best of our ability, but I think the resolution to this will more than likely be purchasing more keys and having each key for each 5-gallon can that we have, and be able to verify where it went. That way you have the serial number or the social security number of the person who pumped it, which we always have in every case. There's the miscellaneous key, whether it's used for filling a lawnmower or filling a chainsaw, still is identified by the user. It has their last 4 numbers of their social security number attached to the disbursement. So there's no effort to deceive. It's a program that worked really well. The reports apparently to go to Ron Hund on Monday, are they to be electronically sent? Are they supposed to be hand delivered? What's the if they're not there by Monday morning, they turn off our fuel pumps? I don't know where we're going with this. I said if it has to have a fuel master key, I don't know how much they are. They're $15, $20 a piece. We'll get more fuel master keys. We'll use the keys for the individual machine if it can be brought to the fuel tank, which is the matter of the fact that many of them can't. The generator can't be brought there, the bulldozers and backhoes and the lawn mowing tractor, when it's out on the field at night, we bring fuel to it. We'll do our best, but it doesn't look like a easy thing to monitor.
How frequently do you put fuel into an auxiliary fuel tank or a container?
I'm sorry?
How frequently is fuel dispensed into an auxiliary fuel tank or a container, or anything other than a vehicle? Is it that frequent? Because, you know, we're identifying 463 plus minus gallons.
Additionally, what's called the miscellaneous key is, I don't believe we have a key for certain machines. So it goes directly into the machine. Some of the machines, I don't know, they can take anywhere from 40 to 100 plus gallons. So
Each machine, you have machines take 40 to 100, not your trucks, but the machines?
sure.
You said 40 to 100.
I,
Which machine, can you identify one of those machines?
I'm sorry?
You just said something about 40 to 100 gallons
Yeah,
per machine. Which,
I believe our John Deere tractor takes in the neighborhood of 40 gallons. I believe that the excavator takes in excess of 100. I know for a fact that the bulldozer we have takes in excess of 100 gallons. Our trucks, I think, for the average take
trucks, we
between-
don't care about. Trucks are identified individually.
Well,
It's
they're
only a
identified
miscellaneous key.
when their keys work and when they are available. Otherwise, they use the miscellaneous key. So they use a miscellaneous key to put fuel in a truck. That's a very frequent thing that happens. Last year, we had a problem with fueling trucks in the winter. Many of our pumps didn't work. We had to change the filters on the pumps every time you fuel the truck because they were waxing up. It's just a problem that winterized. They put so much biodiesel in our diesel fuel that it waxes. So they were using any key to fill any truck. Sometimes they get 5 gallons in at a time and have to change the filter. Sometimes that's why the auxiliary fuel tank, sometimes it went into trucks. We used it because we knew we had fuel in that tank that was done prior to a fuel delivery. We got water in our fuel last year, and one of the key vehicles that we didn't want to lose was our wheel loader. If we lost our wheel loader in a storm, we can't load salt. So what we did was we put known clean fuel in the auxiliary fuel tank, and we fueled the wheel loader off of that known clean filtered fuel. I mean, it can be identifiable, but rest assured, every single ounce went into the vehicles that needed fuel at the time.
Okay. In a four-day period of time, 170 gallons was dispersed to the back of the auxiliary tank in the back of a truck. That's your truck?
Yes,
Okay,
it's the only auxiliary tank that we have right now.
okay. So all we're asking is to identify it. When we asked,
Well, you're asking about 6 months too late because we never ever, and
It's never too
no
late.
one at the highway department ever kept written records of.
no, we're not
of the
asking too
use
late.
of-
We're going forward from the future. We're gonna move forward from that. We can't identify
I
where
can
that
tell- I
went.
can tell you that was in the midst of that extreme fueling problem that we had where.
No, that's this year. You said last year.
You said the winter, unless you're saying you said last winter or something.
Winter 17, 18.
Wait, okay, so this year
Last
you,
year would have technically,
so,
last
so,
winter.
so this year you had a problem, tell us what the problem was this year that you had, that you filled up the auxiliary tank and used that fuel?
We had an extreme problem with the filters clogging on the fuel pumps.
And that was this year?
It was this past winter, so it was in the colder part of the winter, so it was between November and March, let's say.
So 17, 18.
Yeah, this,
17,
the report-
18, yes.
the audit was done 1/1/18 to 5/31/18, so the filters were clogging. Okay, now, in a 2-day period of time, over 114 gallons was dispersed.
Very.
So look, you can't
Yeah,
identify.
Very understandable if you have the excavator on the hill can take 70, 80 gallons in one fill-up.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, I mean, looking at this here when they're done, first of all, if the excavator doesn't the excavator have the opportunity to go to pump and have it pumped directly into it?
No, not in a technical sense. You can't drive the tracks across the blacktop and destroy the blacktop.
Okay, so you have numerous vehicles down there that can drive right to the pump and get filled, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The
So
vast
the ones that
majority,
can't, it's very understandable to have to take it. All we're asking, and it's pretty simple, here's the form. The day, the date, type of container. If it's back in the back of your vehicle, a 5-gallon can, identify how many gallons.
No, I agree, and going forward, it would be.
And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing tonight.
But my comment was that the weekly reporting is a bit restrained. If it was monthly reporting, I mean, it's a simple thing. The time, you know what my men make down there. Am I gonna put someone designated to do that? I have enough things to do. I don't need to do fuel reports, so I'm gonna designate a union employee to take care of this, and they can bring it up to Ron on Monday
Yeah, I
morning.
think you asked the question, electronic. It doesn't have to be brought up in person. Electronic is fine.
All right, I asked that question.
Okay, so electronic. Let's get all the questions answered. Electronically, they will be filed, okay? Now, I asked Ron about, because of the meeting tonight, the report I had was up until May 31st. So I said, how many gallons were pumped, diesel only, not gas? How much was pumped from whatever? He came back to me reporting about a few minutes. It's not hard to get this report. Every one of your men, there's no need for extra keys. The diesel key works. We don't need one other key. The diesel key identifies, as you say, who put it in there. We're just asking that person, whoever it may be, when you fill up your tank, 50 gallons, where does that 50 gallons go? That's all we're asking.
That's fine, but I asked Ron today if he was able to extract information from our Fuel Master system. He told me he didn't, that Nancy was the only one that
Yes, she
did that.
is. Your department is the only one that had access to that report.
You
And you're
just
gonna
said that
provide that.
you asked Ron Hunt produced that today. That's where my
When
question.
I say Ron Hahn produced it, he asked your department to produce this report. All those reports came from your department.
I agree, and I understand that, but when you ask for a separated report, it's gonna take more time to say, what did you,
You know,
how
when you
much
talk
went
time, what do
on-
you consider time?
Well, that's not my part of I don't do the computerization of that whole system. All I'm saying is, if it's a report that has to be filed weekly, it's gonna take time.
Okay.
You say Ron produced that for you, but I don't know
No, when I
how
said
long
Ron
it took
produced it,
for
I
Nancy
asked
to get that.
I asked the town accountant, he gets it through your department. Within a matter of, I wouldn't say minutes, but this report, you press a button and it gives you that report.
I just questioned it because a minute ago you said Ron produced
That's
it.
He
okay,
did.
I think we clarified.
Ron produced it to me, he
Okay,
got the
great.
information
I
from your
understand that
department.
now.
Now, it's clarified, so the bottom line is, the only other thing, you know, and this is, it's good that we're speaking about it, is I took, listening to what Mike said about the Putnam County Department of Consumer Affairs, et cetera. So I think, is there a, yeah, I mean.
Okay,
something-
now, when we used to, I may have used the wrong word, I used the word calibrate.
Okay,
What we want to know with the pump, there's numerous pumps. I already have the pump, ready to go, okay? Well, what you got to do is, it starts at 0 and it pumps. I want to make sure that even your fuel pumps, the Putnam County Department of Consumer Affairs goes to every gas station, every fuel oil distributor, and takes a sampling and says a gallon is a gallon. They do it on the trucks on the road, they go to the gas stations, they go out there, they've got numerous of them, hundreds of them, that they actually go out there and they take a container, they pump out a gallon. Now, if we buy this fuel pump and it pumps out a half a gallon and there's a gallon, there's a problem with it. We either send it back or whatever. It's normal. When your pump pumps out down there, it says all the reports. I mean, the reports tells you who pumped it, what time they pumped it, how many gallons they got. Now, if you're saying that when you pump 50 gallons, it's not 50 gallons, we'd like to know it. I'm not interested in an ounce, but if it says 50 gallons and we're only getting 48, there's a problem and it should be fixed. And that's the way we're gonna find it.
So the bottom line is, if that's something that the county would do for us,
I've already asked the question, you saw the letter I sent to the county, ask them, and maybe I used the wrong word, which I'll apologize
Right.
for. Alls I want to know is when we put it, I go to a gas station, and it's pretty easy, because when they say gas is $3.09 a gallon, and I'm there and it says $3.11 a gallon, there's something wrong with it.
and I think the other point is, that was well taken by me, but what Mike said was, well, how frequently do you do it? And we'd ask the county.
We're doing it once, we're gonna do it once. And
Okay,
if-
but what if there's something, whatever happens? Ask the county, it's not gonna
Yeah.
cost us any money if we do it once a year.
No, I know, once a year's fine,
Yeah.
but we need it at least once. We need to know how much fuel oil goes into the auxiliary tank. The question was asked, it was unknown. Is it 50 gallons, is it hold 100 gallons, what does it hold? You fill it, whether you want to use it for ballast or whatever you want to use it for, not a problem. You put the fuel oil in, it's 100 gallons, it's 50 gallons. Then, where does the 50 gallons go? This report, I think anybody can fill this out. And if there's no disbursement, now I'll tell you right now, you just said, very good. There's been 2 disbursements in, let's see, this is about 6 weeks. So, the resolution says if no diesel is pumped or gas is pumped, there's no need for a report. So in 6 weeks, 65 gallons was pumped. So they have to make 1 report a month or maybe 2, depending. This is not overburdened. All we'd like to know
Well,
is.
that's all I'm asking. I just think that a weekly report is unnecessary.
But there's
and
no
unreasonable.
weekly report. If you don't pump, you don't provide the report.
But if you do pump, if you put a 5-gallon can of gas in, it's been pumped and it requires a report. A monthly report, I think, should be more than satisfactory.
Well, the only thing is, to trace back, people's memories might forget, which now we don't have to worry
It's
about.
not gonna
So
forget if
want-
they're documented at the time of
If you
pumping.
want a monthly report, we will change the wording to a monthly report. Where's it say?
Now, just a point of clarification for me, I don't have a problem with a monthly report or whatever, but really, it's if you use the miscellaneous key.
other ones are
That's
all-
right, if the other ones are all already, I'm making it up
Recorded.
because I don't know. If
They're
they
all
already
yeah.
assigned to Michael Bruin, you already know it was
Yes.
Michael who pumped 100 gallons.
We also know that Michael Bruin pumped with miscellaneous key. We know that. All we want to know is where did it
Whoever
go?
uses the miscellaneous key.
So it's the miscellaneous
puts
key
their-
that-
Puts their personal code in, so the computer registers the code. We always know who's pumping the fuel.
But that's my point now. Wouldn't that make the use of miscellaneous key even less frequent? I mean, you're only using it when you said, I think, your key fails or something to that effect? So in theory, you could use, you might use the miscellaneous key once a year, and then hence, no need for another report. Or am I missing something?
Well, it's used when gas or fuel goes in something that doesn't have its designated key for the vehicle, like our X-Mark lawnmower, or, like I said, the fuel cans for gassing,
All right.
any number of
So
small
that'll be
engine
more
things.
frequent then? That's an everyday
I think
occurrence?
it will probably remain the same as it is. The fuel usage isn't gonna change. We'll have a paper record of it, which is fine, but the fuel use won't change. If what it's been is what it's been, and I don't see we're not changing our operation. I think that the amount of fuel should be identical.
So-
It may fluctuate from the winter to the
Right.
summer, but.
I'm just getting back to the 65 gallons, for argument's sake, that was pumped. That could have occurred in 1 day?
2
Or
days.
could have occurred, okay, in 2 days.
One was 50 gallons, one was.
So just how
50.
onerous would it really be? I mean, hopefully, it's not that much more onerous, right?
It's not.
Hopefully there's not
More more work. It's not onerous to,
onerous.
To-
No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
No, agreed. Well, it is, but I mean, it's gonna be worthwhile. We'll do
I
the
mean,
report. That's why I'm asking
I'm
that
just saying, you
that we
pumped
not
it
do.
one time, 65 gallons, that's it, you write one line, but you pump,
But keep in
you
mind,
pump
now
8
that's
different
But
containers at
that's where the
5
fun
gallons.
starts, is when you put 65 gallons or 85 gallons in the auxiliary tank, that's when it has to be documented. That's what the meter is for. So that's where the paperwork
Right,
starts.
and that's
No,
what I was
paperwork
trying to
starts
figure out
when
if
you put
didn't-
it in to start. The paperwork starts when the person goes out, there's a clipboard inside, pen, whatever, they go pump the gas, they identify day, date,
Right, so,
type of container it's going, is it
so
going
what
to
I'm trying to
5
say
gallons?
is then don't use the miscellaneous key. Just use your
But
key,
they have to.
and then you don't have to
No,
report
they might
it.
have to.
No, they
It's
have to.
already reported.
The miscellaneous key is not the problem. The
Oh.
problem is just where does it go? That's all we want to know. And
just
we're gonna do it
tracking
once a month.
usage.
Well, the reports will be once a month
But you
unless
can't
no,
track the usage on the miscellaneous key, is what I'm understanding. So that's why I'm saying, then don't use a miscellaneous key. Use your key, use Ed's key,
But
use
it still
Lynn's
doesn't
key,
say where it
and then you
goes.
don't have to worry about documenting it.
I know exactly what you're saying, but in other words, there's a key for truck 1, there's a key for truck 30. So they all, for the most part, get used for the vehicle that it was assigned. The incidental use, they don't have keys. So what I'm gonna try to do is get more keys so that they can be directly linked with, this key will go with this can for the tree department. When they put that key in, they're gonna say, it's going into that can that's gonna be mixed to 2-cycle fuel for that purpose.
How many keys are gonna get made?
I'll have to look at our need. I mean, this is something brand new.
I don't think there's a need for keepers. You want to get a key for, but you got the dozer, you got the backhoe.
The dozer can't come to the pump, so we don't
I
need.
get it. So what's the purpose of getting the keys made? Use a diesel key and just write on a piece of paper where it goes.
Well, I'll get them, because what goes in the cans is, now we have, I think have 3 or 4 5-gallon cans that we mix for use in 2-cycle machines.
Fine. It comes to the thing, the date, type of container, 5-gallon can, you put 5 gallons, purpose, weed whackers, lawnmowers. That's all you gotta do. Not make a mountain out of something. Simple. I wouldn't waste time having a key made. We're looking for really the bulk items, the things that are being distributed in a big tank in the back, big numbers going out. Identify where it goes.
Fine, I have no problem with that, but
Okay.
like I said, if we're up to the monthly reporting, I think that's more reasonable.
Monthly,
I think that if,
done?
done.
What's next?
I have, what we did is the monthly reporting and also that the calibrations be once a year in January. I mean, we ought to check it out with the
Or
calendar.
just
I'm doing
based
that.
on manufacturer's specification. I mean, if it
They may
calls
want-
for it to be calibrated every 3 years, no sense in doing
Yeah,
it
no.
once a year,
Well,
or
no,
if
but
we think there's an issue with it.
Once a year, the county goes out to every gas
Okay, so
station,
then,
every
yeah.
whatever.
Once a year.
Put
So
us
then
on the
once a
list.
year then.
Put us on the list.
Right,
what,
All right.
that's it.
what budget does the,
I already bought it.
I'm sorry?
I took it out of my budget.
Okay. Thank you.
I was gonna fight where the money's come from. $90, trust me.
I
It's
don't,
gonna be well worth
I
it.
have no idea what that costs, I've never had it done, but
Around
they
90,
may,
around 90.
they may even come and tell us that the meter we have isn't, accurate, we'll have to, we'll work it
Well,
out.
then that's, we have to get it
We'll
fixed.
work it out.
Exactly.
Okay, so, I'm gonna ask we vote on this one tonight, and we made those
We'll make those
adjustments.
changes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
do that later.
Okay.
Okay, let me get my bearings.
Now, discussion, chapter 72,
Farmers Market.
Okay. This came, the county, after we passed our farmer's market law, the county soil and water and the ag board reviewed our local law and recommended some changes. They came over to visit me, and they asked for some changes. I reviewed the changes requested, and I believe we were able to accomplish everything that they wanted. They added the word regional, it had commercial and institutional, and then they said local. They wanted the word regional, commercial and/or institutional property.
Removed.
Yeah, so it was very
Tony, can-
simple what they asked for. They're very happy with the proposed changes. Now, what's in front of us tonight, I'm going to ask for a public hearing in the
Okay.
regular portion of the meeting. We'll have a public hearing on it. There wasn't right now we've got two farmers markets in town that this applies to, UCP and another one down by Levine's,
Right.
that little area there. So, matter of fact, I didn't send it to UCP, I'll send it out, but it doesn't affect them really in any way, it's just wording.
Do you know why they wanted to change? The one thing that I thought was substantive, but not, it was land not less than 7 acres.
Right.
That was scratched, and then used for the production of sale of crops, livestock, or livestock products. And then it did, what struck out too is with an average gross value, I can't read that, of $10,000 or more. That was struck. Do you know why they
Well,
did that?
unfortunately, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but when we had our
Right.
planner do it, they kind of mixed a little bit of apples and oranges. And they just, it shouldn't have been in there.
Okay.
If we had sent it to them before we had passed it, they would have made those suggestions.
Okay.
But some of it pertains to, I don't know, I would say discounts. You get, Lori, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
No, the,
Credits.
you have to, you have to say, to be an ag district, and there's, you have to have $10,000 in
Right.
sales, and
right.
that kind of got mixed in there. There's a word for it, I can't think of the word. So anyway.
Well, it affected people's taxes.
Well,
It used to.
no, in order to qualify to be in the ag district, whether
Right.
you're in the ag district or
Right.
not. So we kind of mixed a little bit, and
Okay.
they're happy with it. I'll send it to UCP. It really doesn't affect them in any way.
Okay.
It's just they wanted this regional. In other words, they wanted more for the region and local. It's words.
Okay.
Had no problem with the words. But if you have any specific,
I
tell
can
me what they
call.
are, or
Okay.
call Lori Taylor.
Okay, no, I am curious about that, and I know one of our, that someone in the town of Southeast had applied to get into be an ag district. I don't think it
But
obviously.
that doesn't apply here, that
Right,
has
had
nothing to do
with it. I know,
with this.
I
But
know,
what
but-
happened when this law got written, they
Right.
took some of the wording from the ag, being an ag district
Okay.
into this law.
And that's
it
what they
didn't-
don't
And
want.
it didn't belong in there.
Okay, I
Okay,
get it.
that's why they changed the wording.
All right, that's why I asked.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that to a public hearing shortly.
Okay.
Good enough?
Yep.
Okay. Next is, my favorite. Can someone call?
Mine too.
Will someone call Uber for me? Okay, we received a letter from the Putnam County Legislature. Neil Sullivan, Chairman of Rules, Enactments, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, that the county is looking into creating creating a taxi and limousine commission. I know how I stand on it. I know I stood on it as a legislator. My opinion has not changed, so I'll let you guys talk. Edwin,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I'm in favor of it. I mean, I know that, there's definitely a Putnam-based taxi company who would like to do business in Westchester, and I think they have not that I know the rules, but, they can pick you up here and drop you off in Westchester, but then the guy standing in the corner there that wants to come back to Putnam County, they can't bring that person back. And I think it's just silly, and why should we stop them from doing it? So I'd be in favor.
Lynn?
I am not in favor. It's more regulation, but more importantly, I think it does impact, it would impact the village of Brewster, I think, and I think Brewster has the.
And we're not speaking, when we vote here tonight, we're
We're not-
speaking from ourselves, and
Right.
Brewster can weigh in on their own.
Right, but I like the fact that Brewster has their own, and the reason I like that is because there are so many cabs there, and they have the enforcement with we wouldn't have that one way or the other. I just think it's more regulation that we don't need, and I am not in favor of more regulation.
John?
I'd like to hear more discussion before I discuss it, because I'm really not all that familiar with it. I would tend to not want more regulation.
Okay, when I go, I'll kind of fill in some of the blanks for you, and we'll come back to you.
I agree with John. I know, I believe it was last year, and if it wasn't last year, the year before, where we had presentations, and, you know, quite frankly, I don't recall specifically. I know I have a somewhat of a glossed over recollection as to what the issues were. I do know that it had to do with what Edwin was discussing, but I would certainly like to rehear before I make a decision, particularly this evening, on whether or not we would approve the Countywide Taxi and Limousine Commission, its impact on local governments. I am also someone who's not into regulations. I agree with my brethren on that. But that being said, I'd like to hear about it before I do it, I think.
Okay, so you want
And I was here.
Do you want a
so-
public hearing, or you want just meet
I'd
up?
like to, whatever it is, if we could, you
I'll
know,
contact all the taxi limousines within the town of Southeast?
yeah, I would think so, because
Tony,
otherwise
the one other thing too is that with this regulation, I see yet another job to fill of the, you know, a chairman of the Taxi and Limousine Commission, which will start out as part-time and balloon into, you know, into a job, more of a job that costs us all money. So I just wanted to, it's not just regulation, it is the problem of a
It's
I
creating.
mean, I'd like to see pros and cons, is what I'd like to see.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I want every taxi company coming here. You're gonna have, you know, people that are competing against one another, so somebody's gonna be like, oh, sure, that's a great thing,
Well,
I'm
how-
making it up.
How do you want to hear about
And
it?
then Uber will be like, you know, no, I mean, or vice versa, you know, I'm not sure they're the ones that we should be asking.
Well, wait. you
I
have
don't
to
know
ask
who
the-
we should be
You gotta
asking.
ask the people that are affected by it. I'll tell you now, when I was with the
mean,
legislature,
So wouldn't
The
it be
same-
more appropriate to have somebody from the ledge come here and speak and give us their thoughts on why they want this one way or the other, and then from there we can
well, it
figure it out?
pretty much says right here.
That's
they
still
have-
one-sided. That's
Well,
just
yeah,
one-sided.
But
That
have,
makes-
But we're gonna-
have
it's-
a panoply of people. I mean,
It
have
was
the
like with the
ledge, have
motel,
whatever.
we have the one guy who is the direct competition, of course, is against something, and then the other guy who's gonna make money off of it is saying, oh, that's a
Peter, we're
great
gonna be a
idea,
minute, so why don't you
so-
sit down?
I'm not
let
sure,
us
no.
Discuss, we'll get
I
to you
mean,
guys
I don't
on that.
mind listening to what Peter has to say, I mean,
Well,
No,
let's-
Tony wanted to
Well,
speak.
oh.
okay, so look at.
I'm just saying, I don't know who we should be asking, but I'm not
Who
100%
should people
sure I
ask
want
who's
100
being
taxi
affected?
cab drivers here discussing this and listening to 50
Well,
say yes
I
and 50
did,
no.
I did listen to them at the county, not this year, but the year before.
Well,
So I've
Yeah,
been,
right, well,
Well, I sat there when this first came
Yes.
up years ago. And Westchester County was fighting with New York City because they were experiencing the problems that our people experienced there. But you're talking two different, big difference in neighborhoods, okay? And they came up to Putnam County and asked us to join a consortium with Westchester County. Now, the only reason they wanted Putnam County is for numbers, to go to whatever. In the end, I said Westchester, they would never reciprocate with Westchester County, but guess what? They did. Now, when we reviewed it way back when, we did invite people in, and there were almost 90, well, probably 95% adamantly opposed to the regulation. So, I mean, you ask the people who are directly affected by it, I would think. Now, we keep trying to streamline government, and we keep talking about shared services. Well, let Westchester run the service. You know, I think this, some of the people think, Westchester County, and don't hold me to the numbers because I don't know the number, but let's say they charge a lot of money for each cab, whether it's $500, I'll find out and let you know, $750. Do you think we're gonna charge anything different? We're gonna wanna make the same money they're making. So if we give them a license and Westchester reciprocates, and the only way you're gonna get reciprocation with any other county is if you have the same rules and regulations. So if you charge $500, because if not, guess what? If we charge $500, Westchester charges $750, and you reciprocate, guess what? They're all gonna come and get registered in Putnam County. So there's no difference who gets the money. I say, whatever taxi company or limousine company that does business down in Westchester, let them go down and get the license. You're gonna find that most of the ones, especially here in Brewster, don't go into Westchester. They could care less about it. Others go only to the airport. Now, I don't know if they can pick them off if they're driving down the road, like on the parkway, can they pick them off? As long as they brought them from Patterson or Southeast, and then what we do with Dutchess County. it becomes a big bureaucratic nightmare. But tell me how, I'll let Peter speak in a minute, but how do we want, okay, Peter, you're talking, we'll discuss what we're gonna do.
Peter Bell. The biggest thing with.
You do drive a cab from time to time or limousine, do you not?
I have, yes,
Good.
for Annie's.
Hey, no advertising.
The biggest problem that the Putnam County taxis have, if you look on the license plate, it says taxi.
Yes.
If you look at a license plate that's in Westchester County, there's a W and a C with TLC on the bottom, which means they're a part of the Westchester County Taxi and Limousine Commission. The problem that Putnam County or any other county has, if you take somebody to Westchester County Airport and you pull up to the curb and your tag says taxi, that you came from Putnam County, they can ticket you several $100s. So what I understand that the cabs and the limousine services are looking for is to have a similar type commission in Putnam County, which would be similar to Westchester, and each one of those taxis would then become a TNLC with a P and a C on the end, maybe something like that, so they wouldn't be subject to the fines that they go if they go to Westchester Airport. They can actually pick them off on the highway.
Wait, why would they be allowed to do that? If we're Putnam and we don't have a reciprocal license agreement, they're not gonna do that.
I honestly don't know, and I don't know how that would make a difference. It was a Putnam
They
County
want
taxi
reciprocal
limousine.
licensing in Westchester.
Yeah.
So we created our own, and we have
As
to
long
match.
as long as they're accepted by other counties, then I guess, but I don't know.
Well, see,
You're
that's
right.
it. I don't know.
It's very complicated.
It's complicated, and I think that's why I would prefer to have, whatever you want to call it, a public hearing. People coming here from the legislature, from the taxi places, although I don't want, hours and hours of this. It sounds like it could be condensed into something less than hours and hours, but at least have more information. We did it that one time. I definitely remember it.
Okay,
I know, by the way, I have no problem with hours and hours, because we've got to allow every cab company that wants to speak.
And they did.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
also don't understand why it becomes complicated. If a Westchester Taxi and Limousine Commission can then drop somebody off in Putnam County without getting fined. So I don't know how they can do that in Westchester, but
Right.
they don't
Because
do
they
it in
have a
Putnam.
law in the books, we don't have any laws.
It is extremely difficult, it's extremely complicated, but that's the major reason, is that when Putnam County cabs go through Westchester County or to Westchester County Airport, they can be fined for doing business in Westchester County that they're not licensed to do business in.
Peter, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. You have worked for a limousine company that's located in Putnam County. Have you ever
Yeah, that's what I
received a
wanted to
ticket
ask.
when you drop somebody off at Westchester Airport?
Anna's is different.
Why
Say that
is
again?
it different?
Well, Anna's really isn't different, because they don't belong to, you have to get a Westchester, to drive for Anna's, you have to get a Westchester County taxi and limousine license.
So that's
car.
you as a driver?
That's me as a driver. Their cars are not registered with Westchester County, and they used to tell me, if you're dropping off at Westchester County Airport, open the door, let them jump out and keep going.
Correct.
But going to any other New York airport, not a problem.
Right,
No.
right, you can,
Such a
it can- the trip can originate from here to a drop-off point, but once you get into the drop-off point, like you said, you're not allowed to pick up a returning fare.
That's not even part of it, because most of
That's
the
what I'm
times,
saying.
taxis and limos don't have a return fare from Westchester County Airport. It's just going into Westchester County Airport and stopping at the curb and letting somebody out.
But people going to Putnam do get picked up at Westchester Airport by limos.
Using Putnam County,
Yeah, sure.
are they
People I
subject to fines? Yes.
Didn't
Okay.
your company that you worked for, didn't they have they never, not one of their limos had a Westchester permit? Not one?
They
No,
got
they're-
sued a lot by people that scraped their knees when they were flying out the door, right?
No, they did it.
No, just kidding, everyone, just kidding. I have no such knowledge.
Okay, so who do you want to invite to? I mean, the legislature. you're
They
gonna
came
get-
last time, they can come again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Do we advertise it? Do you want-
I mean, I would recommend everyone, well, I mean,
The weird thing is that we have not in this town received, only one person, the same person that's
Yeah.
requesting it at the Putnam County Legislature.
it is the same
And way
person.
back when I contacted, when I was a county legislator, I went all over the county to every one of them that did service here in this county, and not, a very few of them wanted regulation.
Is that a limousine service they did? I don't need, I'm not gonna ask
Yes.
the name.
It's
Well,
both. It's
yeah,
taxi.
yeah.
Right.
Well, the big thing is with the limousine service. Limousine services normally are not regulated, or their territory is not just the town of Southeast or Putnam County.
But I'm using if you're based in South.
No, I know, but limousines normally go outside the county.
They come in from Connecticut all the time.
Why don't we?
They come in from Dutchess.
Yeah.
So how
why
do
don't
you,
we, we don't, like you say, we don't have a law, so therefore they can come through Putnam County without a problem.
so what
But
this
you
person,
can't do that in,
Well, Westchester County Airport also has a little area where you walk over and you can have people drive you from the airport to Putnam. I've done it myself. They have a
Yes.
desk there,
but they're Westchester County people.
more likely than not.
okay, who do you want? Do you just, tell me what to do.
Well, I'd want someone from the legislature, clearly.
Well, Mrs. Sullivan probably come, we got Mr. Yankee, Mr. Castellano, they can come here and speak.
Or whoever can really speak to it. And then in terms of,
It'll be advertised.
my recollection was, I'm pretty sure it was someone from, and I don't recall the name of the Brewster
I know,
taxi
I know where it
company.
is.
I know someone came from
Does the
there.
village have a,
Yes,
They
they have
do.
a
The
commission.
village has their own.
so they should also come here
Right.
and give us their input as to what they think is necessary.
Well, they
and what
voted,
do.
they said no to the regulation
Well, I'd like
themselves.
to hear one. I think I'd like to
Open
hear
to
from
it.
them.
We can invite them. If they don't come, they don't
Yeah.
come. Can't force them to come.
Okay,
No,
so,
just for information, that's all.
Right.
so,
I do like to cooperate with the village when we can. I know it's a totally separate government, but if it really hurts their bottom line and it doesn't help us and it's more regulation and someone's getting an extra job, I think we should invite
Okay.
the village.
we'll put it on the next work session. We'll put it on the next work
The
session.
liaison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Next work session, it's coming.
Thank you.
Okay, regular meeting. Let me get my bearings here. The vehicle policy is coming back next meeting.
So do we have to go out of work session or into regular
Yeah, we're
meeting?
going to regular meeting now. Make a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, number 2, I'm going to ask to waive the rules. It's about the miscellaneous gas and diesel fuel distribution tracking. We made some adjustments, 1 monthly reporting. I moved the rules to approve of that this evening. It needs an unanimous vote. Roll call vote to put it on.
But it was already on
It's kinda
the
odd.
meeting, so
Well,
what-
No,
I
but we
know,
usually
but-
don't pass them the same night.
We don't, yeah.
We usually wait.
Oh, so you're waiving a different.
I understand that, but it was already on the meeting.
No, no.
Usually when we do that, it's not even noted that we're gonna be voting on it, is all I'm saying.
No, but I'm pointing it out.
Okay,
I put
I
it on there because,
All right, yeah, otherwise I was gonna say, it's already on there, we don't.
I know.
All right,
but,
We're waiving a
It's
different
not-
rule.
I'm a yes vote.
We're waiving the rule regarding putting it on, discussing it in a work session and then voting on
Approving
it.
it.
Right,
That's the rule
Okay.
we're waiving,
Yes.
which we waived
oh
only
wait, sorry,
one.
I'm gonna take your job. Michelle, do some work here. Come on.
Okay. Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Councilman Lord.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. And on the motion itself, all in favor?
Aye.
With the changes.
With the change.
With the changes, yes. Okay. Resolution audit of justice court records. Resolved that the town clerk is directed to enter a copy of the resolution into the minutes of this meeting and go forward. A certified copy of this resolution together with a copy of the report dated June 1, 2018 to Joan Gazaza, Internal Control Liaison, New York State Office of Court Administration, 2500 Pond View, Suite LL01, Castle on the Hudson, New York 12033. Is it Castleton? I guess so.
Castleton. Castleton.
Castleton on the Hudson. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Could I just make a point,
Yeah.
that on that document, it says June 12th, I think it's July 12th.
Oh,
Who did that?
Yeah.
I plead,
Huh.
it was, definitely wasn't that. I would say,
okay, so do we need to?
no, just
No, just-
make a motion
Okay.
to revise it to July 12th. All in
I'll
favor?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good enough, okay. Number 4, resolution performance bond for erosion and sediment control, Lower Terrace Realty, 250 Route 22, tax map 78.1-34. Now therefore be resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Lower Terrace Realty, bond amount, site improvements, $388,000, erosion and sediment control, $8,500, and be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board secretary and building inspector forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, resolution to support the Southeast Cultural Arts Coalition application to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation for an historic preservation project grant. First thing I have to do is waive the rules. We had a public hearing, and it's not practice to have a public hearing and whatever, but as you saw, nobody came to speak to it, and somewhat time is the
It
essence.
is timely, so I will
and So
second.
move.
So do we have to waive?
Waive the
Oh,
rules.
we have to
to
waive,
start.
okay,
Yes.
fine.
So I'll second.
All in favor
I'll
of waiving
second.
the rules?
Right.
Yes.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
On the resolution itself?
Aye.
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 Okay, and we thank Victor for bringing that forward to us tonight. And Olena Truscott has done a lot of work down there, and she's doing a good job for us. Thank you. Okay, now, next is a motion to set the public hearing for Chapter 72 Farmers Markets for Thursday, August 20th, 2018.
I'm sorry, August 30th.
Say
Correction.
Say
August
again?
30th, you said 20th.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with my cataracts, and it'll get better. What did I say, 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was close, I'm off by 10.
Just want to make sure you're paying attention.
Shoot, yes. Okay, I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Recognition to the public. Town board.
I have something.
I have something too. I'll wait
Okay.
I just wanted to say that the sheriff called me last week to give us some statistics because they had heard that they had gotten calls that speeding up in Brewster Heights was, had gotten out of control. So they had cars up there on and off from May 26th through June 27th, and 21 vehicles were stopped, so clearly there is a problem, and 15 summonses were issued. So, you know, I was really happy to hear that they were up there, and people shouldn't hesitate to ask if their neighborhoods are having speeding problems. I think Sheriff Langley's been great on enforcement, so. And also, John and I walked the Northeast Logistics property today. We got a beautiful day to walk a beautiful piece of property, so I know there's gonna be another site walk for other board members if they'd like on Monday, so that's all I've got.
Okay, Liz?
I mean, I just wanted to say that, to thank everyone who worked very hard, including our town board member Edwin Alvarez for the fireworks. which,
Stealing my thunder here.
Exactly, okay. So I won't steal his firecracker thunder anymore, but I personally thought that it was a great job. And unfortunately, I wasn't there because of, I had some surgery, but that being said, there wasn't one person I spoke to that didn't say they had a great time, and it was a wonderful event, including people in my physical therapy group.
Yes, and I heard the traffic moved really well, so
Yes.
I heard it was great.
It was in and out in about half an hour.
Yeah, it's
this year.
fantastic.
But yes, I just, thank you. I appreciate you mentioning it, but I don't really want any recognition on my end. I just wanted to recognize everybody who did attend. It was held on Sunday, July 1st. It was a great event, and that day was really, really hot. So I commend those that took the time out to sit out there. If I didn't have to be out there, I would not have been out there that night. And again, this is done by a group of volunteers and with private donations. So I wanted to thank the members of the Fireworks Committee, as well as those businesses who donated in-kind services, such as Lisa's Towing and the band Saving Athens. And our top 4 sponsors who donated $1,000 each was Carmel Windwater, DeChico's, Coco Nails, and Durante Rentals. And 2 $500 donors were the Brewster Elks and Unilock. This year we raised $7,194 and had a balance that we rolled over from last year of $3,300. So that gave us a total of $10,496. The fireworks themselves cost $7,500. So if you attended and enjoyed the event, I hope that you'll consider making a donation towards next year's fireworks. And at the last meeting, I just wanted to point out and clarify for the record, I think it was stated that the town had contributed $1,000 to the event. And once again, I'd like to say the town did not contribute $1,000 this year. No taxpayer dollars were used for the event. It was all private donations, okay? And I hope, Tony, that you can confirm that.
I'm going to confirm it
All
because
right?
after the meeting, I
And
went
don't
and
make a
checked the
liar
record.
out of me.
Well, no, what happened was, the report that I saw, believe it or not, I didn't look at the one thing that was probably important, was the date was 2012.
Right,
The
that was the
report
first
would start-
year
Yeah, that was the first year.
seed money was granted
Yeah.
and given.
2000
Yes,
I think that was
correct.
after the town had typically
Yeah.
sponsored
Yeah.
and paid
Yes.
for the fireworks.
Well, and I think it stopped the fireworks, so this was the way of getting, I remember I
Correct.
went
Yes.
to
And
the
it
original
used to be at
meetings.
the, off of.
At Scopino
Yep.
So
Park.
when I
Yeah.
looked at it, there was 7 reports, and the wrong one was on top, so.
And, so because a couple of weeks ago, the Brewster Emergency Shelter Partnership came in for a brief overview of the services that they provide in the winter in the village of Brewster. And they asked the board for money, so Supervisor Hay noted to them that, we're unable to donate money to a private organization with public funds. And the town attorney stated, I think that it was New York State or the New York State Constitution prohibits the use of public funds for a private purpose. So once again, I didn't want the public thinking that the town board had money to contribute to the fireworks, but not to the shelter, so,
And that is going to be,
All right.
just so you know, the town attorney will be
Yeah,
contacting
and I
the state
appreciate
controller
that.
to find out if or not, and we'll report back to the
Absolutely,
town
because
board.
I'm sure I speak for all of us, there's not one person on this town board that wouldn't want to help and donate, to the shelter, but if we can't by law, we can't by law.
Right,
and
that's
we're
why
not
Will's
break
gonna
the
write
law.
the controller and
All right,
we'll
but-
have a
John,
definitive
Thanks again to everybody.
answer.
Okay, and just briefly.
And also to the sheriff's department from.
Yeah, I mean, there's
What I've heard
numerous,
that-
but the sheriff's department typically we pay, so that's why I didn't really mention it. Well, we don't, but Putnam County
Right,
does.
Putnam County.
Okay, I guess it was a really hot weekend this past weekend, and I got a lot of complaints from the town park. The residents that are attending are not behaving themselves. The rules are posted in English and Spanish, and they're getting rowdier and rowdier. There's more damage being done. They don't listen to the lifeguards. Now, a lot of these are kids, trying to make a small couple of bucks when they go back to college. They don't need the abuse from the public. They get it from both adults and from kids. There is an adult at the location, I would say senior members, 2 adults. So when they blow the whistle for whatever the infraction, you can't bring in booze, you can't bring in glass, you can't smoke, you gotta wear a bathing suit. It wasn't this past weekend, but women have stripped down to their panties and bra and tried to swim. I wasn't there that day, unfortunately, but that's but they're getting out of hand. So after this past weekend, Patty called me, and actually one kid actually pulled his pants down and said, "It's better." I just don't know why people have to be that way. So I did write a letter to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff personally called me and said he always will work with the town. Any municipality that has a problem, if they recognize it, which you just pointed out with the patrols in Brewster Heights. And I want to thank everyone that they're going to help us, and just ask the public, please, behave yourselves. I mean, I don't know why you go to our parks and destroy them, whether they're kids, adults. I mean, this year it hasn't been as bad, I'm going to knock on wood, we maybe had about $2,000 worth of damage, but almost every year we suffer about $5,000 in damage, which just doesn't make sense. Why do you break the toilet bowl? Why kick the doors in? It's just amazing what they do. But I want to thank them and the public. With that, I'll entertain some motion.
Make a motion to close tonight's meeting?
No, I haven't spoken yet.
Oh,
Well, hurry up. And in the future,
sorry, we called for
You go,
public
you go.
comment, so.
No, but you're allowed to talk before us, that's why Tony
Well,
and I.
anyway, no, I live in Bristol Heights, Kathy McBride. Now, I don't know who picked this garbage company that we have.
they won the
that's doing-
contract by bid.
They won the contract by bid. Well, the recyclables that we can't put, it has to be in a can. You can't, because the plastic they used to just pick up and throw it in the back of the truck, now they take the can and they throw it all in, and half the stuff rolls down my driveway, and the whole Brewster Heights Hill is littered with milk cartons, bottles, everything. That's the new bid. So they put a cheaper bid.
One thing you should know, that all garbage companies now, I think almost all of them, they can't, that plastic gums up the works.
I know that, but that's not the point. They're not gonna pick up the garbage that's in my driveway because it rolled down. I have to get up and go pick up plastic bottles and stuff like that. It's all over Brewster Heights Hill. That's not the kids littering. They don't take their jug of milk and throw it out when they're done,
You should
know?
drive down Maple, you'd be
No,
surprised.
I'm just saying,
when-
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that it's the garbage company that's littering the place, and I don't like it.
I mean, have you contacted our special districts?
No, I'm here to tell you guys.
Well,
I
okay.
waited all night.
I think, I'm sure Tony will contact him.
Tony's gonna do something about it, I know.
And basically just tell him, because obviously the company itself needs to
I mean, and
go to
there's-
whoever's on that route
And
and
there's
say.
only one guy on the truck. I mean, one's driving and the other guy, the other company had two guys on the back of the truck. One guy, and that's it. Now, maybe it was a little bit too hot, he got delirious, I don't know, but I just don't like, you think that kids are littering and it's not the kids.
Now, I'll talk to Levon.
Yep.
Might go in one ear and out the other, not with Levon, but with the garbage company.
Well, I could call the garbage company
Yeah,
too.
probably not a
but
bad
I thought
idea.
it was more fun to tell you guys.
Well, it is fun, but
you also
they
have
really
order.
enjoy your call too. I know they would. I can get in touch and give you their number. So.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we already made the motion. Everyone
Yep.
seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you all for coming.
Night.